And now it's time to welcome our first guest, Joe McKenzie. He's an entrepreneur with his company, Ripple Connects. Joe is a career expert, public speaker, and the co-host of the weekly radio program, New Beginnings. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, David.
So, you talk a lot about contacts, establishing connections and people and networking and so on and so forth. Tell us, how can that benefit our income generation members that are approaching retirement, who want to make sure that they don't feel isolated once they leave the workforce?
Absolutely. And this is something that for 30 years, I've built this model in my sales training, my sales career, and how I built my company and how I basically turn around and help the New Beginnings listeners in the Twin Cities. Yes, the connections are key. David, the first actionable step someone can take is start developing and thinking about who your bench of advocates are. The bench of advocates are people that know you already, David, the people that you've worked with, the people that you maybe in your faith organization, you volunteered with. Those are your bench of advocates that are going to help you stay connected as well as achieve a lot of the goals in your retirement, as well as being on someone else's bench of advocates. I think the reciprocal nature of that is very actionable for your viewers today.
It's interesting because today's a different environment. People in the neighborhood always used to know each other, and now a lot of people don't know more than maybe one or two of their neighbors. And I think it's because it's so easy to have those friendships and relationships with the people with whom you work 8 or 10 hours a day. But all of a sudden, correct me if I'm wrong, but you retire and now all of a sudden it seems like you have to work a lot harder at those relationships. Do you not?
Yes, you do. And that's why, people in their early 50s, as they start eyeing up retirement, start building those connections now. So you have that infrastructure in place. So when you do retire, you're not going at it with, who am I going to connect with? You already have an idea who your advocates are going to be and who you can be an advocate for. So the earlier you can start outside your own industry and your own company to build those relationships up, David, is key here.
Yeah, it seems to me as though just about the time that one becomes an empty nester, which for many is probably right around the age of 50, that's a major life-changing event. And that's when a lot of couples separate because they kind of lost touch with who the other person is. So that might be not only a good chance to reconnect with your spouse, but it might also be a great chance to focus on those external relationships, since at that point the kids are off to college or their work career, and they've got more important things to do than mom and dad.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell me, you talk a lot about things such as employment for seniors, challenges people have with housing, with fitness, with finance. Let's talk about some of those. Let's talk about housing first of all.
Absolutely. Housing is a critical piece for people to stay in their home longer, making sure that they're safe in their homes. Do they have that community that's going to allow them to stay vibrant? That is something we cover on New Beginnings, that we learn of the different housing options. Do you want to be on a ladder, or in Minnesota here, shoveling your snow off your driveway? It's a critical thing. Falls happen, and housing is critical for people to stay in their home longer if they know of the different options that are out there.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about relationships too. The housing is a big part of that, right? I mean, if you live in an isolated area, it might be time to go to an adult community, if you will, where there's people your age, where there's social events, et cetera, et cetera. I know some of those, I'm not that it's a healthy thing, but, in the 20 seconds we have left or so, you've probably heard these stories also that, gee, I can go to happy hour 7 nights a week if they want. There's always something going on at this particular retirement community.
Absolutely. That connection to others and not being isolated is critical as the baby boomers age.
Yeah, and it goes hand in hand with the housing decision, which makes sense. So
Absolutely.
So Joe, we need to take a break. Please stick around. And you stick around too. We'll be right back with more here on the Income Generation. I'm David Scranton. We'll be back in a moment. And right now it's time to welcome back Joe McKenzie, entrepreneur with his company, Ripple Connects. He's a career expert, public speaker, co-host the weekly radio program, New Beginnings. Joe, thanks for sticking around.
Thank you.
Okay, so if the relationships are such a big deal because everything changes when you retire, then how many retirees do you see going back to work part-time? Not those that need the money. I mean, perhaps going back to work part-time just for the relationships, for something to do. How common is that in your experience?
I see a lot of people carving out their second careers, doing something they've always wanted to do, maybe something completely different. Life happens. We start our families. We start in a career. This is a great opportunity to do what you always done. Be a teacher, go back and work with younger generations, build houses, be a coach, be an entrepreneur. Second careers are a great way for baby boomers to stay connected, have that additional income, stay healthy and engaged in their communities and meeting new people. So second careers, I think, are a great step for someone to look at, and really an actionable step, David, for someone to figure out what is that second career. Let's go back to the bench of advocates. The people on our bench of advocates know us the best. They know our transferable skills. They could probably give us some insights on where do we go next. So it shouldn't be where we're not sure where we're going to go. We engage with the bench of advocates. They'll give us that roadmap on how do we start going down the road of a second career.
Sure. And then there's fitness. Those who are fitness buffs during their working lives are likely to continue those good habits right into retirement. But now that those folks have more time on their hands, isn't it a great opportunity for those who maybe have not focused enough on fitness to now make that a newfound priority during retirement?
I believe so. We all know some of the health risks of too much sitting during the day, sitting in a commute, driving home and to work. This is a great opportunity, especially even with the second career, to pair some of that activity with your job. So if you were sitting at a desk, maybe it's something you want to do where you're up and moving around. And I think that's a great way to add to that activity. But yeah, sitting is not good for us. So that ability to combine that more exercise, that structure, and maybe into a second career, that helps us stay healthy longer. And
for some, just if they, for example, join a health club, that's another great way to meet people, to network with people also, which is
absolutely.
I don't have time. I run 3 companies, so when I go to the health club, I put the hat down like this. I try hard not to talk with anybody because I've got a few minutes to get my workout in and leave. But if I were retired, I can imagine it would be a little more fun than it currently is. Since we're on a financial show, let's take the last minute or so, because we probably should, talk about finances, okay? Finances in retirement. In the last 60 seconds or so, what are your best words of advice when you get somebody who's on that brink of retirement? Your best words of advice when it comes to managing their finances, or changes maybe in mindset when it comes to finances that they should be embarking upon as they phase into retirement?
Well, as they phase into retirement, know that there could be options for that second career, that you can maybe offset some of the Social Security longer by having that second career. Have that cash flow. One of the biggest concerns baby boomers have as they age is that they're going to run out of money. So here's a great way to keep cash flow going with a second career, in my opinion. With the advent of technology, we can do so much more from our homes, and we don't have to sit in those long commutes anymore. So I think second career, starting your own business, will help in the financial situation longer if you didn't do it. So that final thought would be, eye up that second career that's going to give you that cash flow that's going to allow you to retire comfortably, but also have that peace of mind as you go through life, knowing that you've got income coming in and staying engaged and healthy.
So Joe, this has been wonderful. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
My pleasure, David. Thank you.
And you stay with us. We'll be right back with more here on The Income Generation. We'll be right back.